Hey, what is up? The Leafs Convo back in business for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. It's Norm and Mike on StreamYard, YouTube, and then all of the podcast masses right across this planet Earth. The Leafs 6 straight wins now after a 6-5 win over the Senators, 9-0-1 in their past 10. The top team in the NHL with about 15 games to play or so. Mike, we are waiting with bated breath for a move from Kyle Dubas. We think it's necessary that he does make a move. Will he, in time, make an acquisition to help strengthen this team by the deadline tomorrow, 3 o'clock? We shall see. What's going through your head right now, sir?
Well, the moves that they made, and we'll mention the Riley Nash trade that they made earlier in the week or a couple days ago. That sort of preps them. If you look at what Elliot Friedman mentioned on the Saturday night on the Hockey Night in Canada, the pre-show, and then the machinations of the cap and how the Leafs have sort of moved things in a certain direction. They put Freddie Andersen on LTIR, and they got as close to the cap as they possibly could, and then put him on LTIR, and then demoted a couple players to the minors off the taxi squad, and that opens up about $6.5 million in cap space. To my mind, that preps them for the potential of a big move. Now, that doesn't guarantee that Freddie Andersen is not going to come back at some point, and if that's the case, then they're just giving themselves some flexibility. But to my mind, it sounds like Dubas is set to make a acquisition. He's done everything that he normally, or he has to put himself in that position. And I would think he's going to do it. It's just a question of who and for how much.
This is the Convo for Oak Ridge Ford, Norm in London, Mike in Buffalo. We may actually do another one of these later today, depending on what goes down from the Leafs boardroom. So stand by. This is something for you guys to chew on in our traditional time slot. Puff 420. Good morning to you, sir. Ronnie Smith is in the chat too. They will start jumping in as the minutes continue on here. So Nick Foligno hearts a tweet from Riley Nash, and the comments ensued. Do you think Nick Foligno may be saying goodbye to Columbus on his way to Toronto too?
Well, I think he's saying goodbye to Columbus, whether it's Toronto or not, who knows. But, first, talk about like a no-lose move for the Leafs with the Nash trade, because he goes on long-term injury. He's going to be back by the playoffs. He's a veteran guy, third, fourth liner, physical, sort of the type of player we said that the Leafs need. He doesn't cost them anything because he's on long-term injury. So in terms of a depth forward, that is a perfect acquisition, and it doesn't cost them anything. It costs an additional 7th round pick, and that's really nothing. So that was a really astute move by Dubas to bring in a veteran guy. Now, I think they are looking for a top 9 forward. And if you see what the lineup is like without Nylander playing with Tavares, how the scramble of the top lines, how it occurred. Now, Galchenyuk playing with Matthews and Marner, that was like it was a line for the last 3 months, the way they played last night. They played really well together. But they had Hyman with Mikheyev and Tavares, and that line didn't do very much. It did okay. But you can see that without Nylander, what has to happen in terms of moving things around. And that's why I think they want another forward who can be a scorer.
Tavares, the odd man out right now, and he's going to get criticism for not producing enough. Nylander and Tavares were a nice combo. Even during their struggles, you knew they would break out of it. And Galchenyuk, look, the guy's a professional. He's very skilled. He lost his way there for a considerable period of time, because a guy like that really needs to be implanted in an opportunity to succeed with good players of his ilk. And he's, you or I might be able to pick up some points playing with Marner and Matthews. So Jack Campbell, 11 straight wins to start the season. That's the Leafs record now. Good for him. He's the number one. We've anointed him as such. Are we expecting Kyle Dubas to get on call here and let everybody know that he's acquired a support for Campbell in terms of, or in the form of a veteran goaltender?
Well, I mean, last night's game was the first of the 11 starts that Campbell's made where I didn't think he was particularly good. He was okay in the third period. He made a few saves to hold on to the lead. But, I mean, let's just say Ottawa is an annoying team, especially when they've lost 9 games to Edmonton and they show up and they play like it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup every time they play the Leafs. It's aggravating. But that being said, about the goaltending, again, we don't know what the status of Anderson is, but the signal of him being put on LTIR means either they don't think he's going to be 100% between now and the end of the regular season, or that was just a cap move to open up space.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Nobody knows. I think the only people that know are Kyle Dubas and the hierarchy of the Leafs. If I had to gamble, I would say they're going to acquire a goaltender. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a goalie like a Jonathan Quick, whose name has been mentioned a couple of times, or Braden Holtby, because they have term left on contracts. I think they would go for somebody like maybe Ryan Miller, if Ryan Miller is willing to waive his no. I think he's got a no trade or no move protection from Anaheim, to take a shot at winning the Stanley Cup. Or Linus Ullmark, who if the Sabres can't get him signed to a contract, somebody like that, somebody who's a rental. David Rittich from Calgary is a possibility. I mean, you saw it's not going to be really ridiculously costly.
Yeah.
Colorado traded for Devin Dubnyk, and they gave up a 5th-round pick and a guy that they didn't want. So it's not really going to cost a team much other than cap space. And now I think the Leafs have the cap space to be able to add that goaltender, maybe a depth defenseman, and still get the forward that they want.
Mm-hmm. Colorado, wow, 58 points, 27 wins, fewer regulation losses than the Maple Leafs, a plus 47. Man, when the curtain raises on the border and these teams commingle for the first time in this wacky COVID season, it's going to be interesting watching these juggernauts clash with each other, not having seen what their opponents are about other than scouting on video. That's certainly going to be a lot of fun. OG's Converse, we appreciate you jumping in the chat right now. You're coming in fast and furious. Mike and I are going to do this for another less than 10 minutes. Mike's got to get on to his other show, and then we will reconvene later today, depending on whether there's news regarding a trade. We're anticipating something. Mike and I may just collab later on today to cap off what we're starting here.
Yeah.
Matthews, 31 goals, hat trick, 4 points. Mitch Marner with just unbelievable passes. Those guys seem to be, they've got their shortcomings, both of them. Marner a little bit more amplified and highlighted based on his minutes and some of the things that he does, but they look like they're tuning up. I mean, that's a deadly duo.
Well, yes, and the thing we have to be concerned about is the ability of them to produce like that in the playoffs. I'll come to the defense of John Tavares. It's like, and I don't think you weren't attacking him, but there's criticism out there. He's not living up to his $11 million. I mean, last week when Matthews scored 1 goal in the third period, Tavares scored right after. Anybody pales in comparison to the pace that Austin Matthews is putting up right now. He's leading the league with 31 goals. I mean, honestly, I think Tavares is having a pretty good season. Not a great season, but a pretty good season. And his job is to be the number 2 behind Matthews and to take some of the heat off of Matthews. And I think he does that effectively. But the thing that concerns me is the power play.
It's terrible. It's non-existent, Mike. It's non-existent.
It's abysmal, and to the point that it's not just like not hurting them in terms of burning off 2 minutes. The other teams are scoring shorthanded goals against them. Alex Formenton blew by them because they're confused on the power play and scored a goal. And, and they came back and they won the game. But really, I mean, it's their power play, right? They've got to get that straightened out over the next couple weeks to get it going in a positive direction before the playoffs.
We've been talking about the Leafs getting the power play straightened out for months now, and they haven't done it. I hope it's not an afterthought. I hope it's still front and center in their training efforts, their process of improvement, because without it, the team won't do well in the playoffs. Shout out to Clark Monroe. Hi, gents. First time checking in live. Paul O'Neill, he believes the only way the Leafs can beat Tampa or Colorado, if they end up meeting them, is to get Taylor Hall.
Yeah.
Because they need that. They need more offensive force, especially with Nylander's unknown. And then, I mean, even if he does come back and plays with Tavares, they need more might up front to take on these teams.
See, I don't think the motivation to get a top six forward is, to necessarily put them, get Tavares and Nylander juiced up. I think it's to get Zach Hyman to be able to play on the third line. I mean, you see right now, Galchenyuk can play in a top six role with either line. I don't think he's proven that, but it's shown in a small window. But they really don't have, if they want a more well-rounded third line, like when we had Mikheyev, Engvall, and Hyman, which was an extremely effective line, they can't do that if they don't have another winger to put. Now, I think Nick Foligno would fit in a top six role. He's still capable of playing that. There are some other forwards out there that are rentals that might fit that. I hope it's not Michael Granlund, because I think Michael Granlund is not a good fit. I don't even think he's a good fit on a third line. I don't know where he would fit, but I think that's the reason why they're looking for that top six option, because I think ideally what they want to do is have Hyman in that third line checking role and in the playoffs. And I just got to mention there's somebody in the chat, Enzo, the commissioner. He's saying we don't need a goaltender. And, are you kidding that I think Anderson is done for the year? They wouldn't have put him on LTIR if he might not be done for the year. It's very possible that he isn't, but I mean, I think that move was to open up cap space. But the whole purpose, if they put him on LTIR, they have to have $5 million in cap space to be able to activate him. So it's possible that he's not going to play until the playoffs and be the backup for Jack Campbell if Jack Campbell truly is the starter.
I mean, so exciting to find out what happens between. No, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, I mean, right now we don't know, and we're not going to know. But the indication is based on that is that this injury is something that Anderson can't be 100% at, and in that instance, they have to get themselves a goaltender.
Can they leave it to chance, Mike? If the Leafs truly believe analytically that they have an opportunity to go on into the playoffs and do some damage and maybe win a cup for the first time in like 50 years, can they leave? Can they pin those hopes and dreams on a goaltender whose health is in question and whose mental tenacity and cuteness and just that general positivity are lacking? So, yeah, I can see why Jack Campbell would be the goaltender the team wants to run with, and then, bring in some support if they can. Just on the power play, they're 10th in the league, 23.3. I'm surprised the Leafs are even 10th. They should be 50th out of 31 teams, and they're 21st on the penalty kill. So not to be downers, we know the team, they're effervescent at times, and they're one of the best teams in the league right now. But these components have to be refined and nearly perfected if on a consistent basis if this team's going to go deep into the playoffs. Thanks guys for being in the chat. We got to get Mike out of here. He's got another podcast to do, but we will be back later today. That's a guarantee from us. We will cap off this show. Leafs Nation, Domi and Foligno package, that would be a lot of fun. We've been excited about the team making a big deal, believing that's what it needed to do to further enhance its chances in years past. Kyle Dubas has made big deals. He's also chosen to, do smaller ones and ride with what he has. Let's speculate, because the clock's a ticking right now. Does he go big or does he go small?
I think he wants to go big, but I think if he's not able to pull, you've heard the Taylor Hall rumors, but everybody puts the caveat that, the Leafs might like circle back to Hall if Buffalo hasn't moved him by Monday mid-afternoon. It's like, I think that the Sabres are going to trade Hall, but well before that. And I don't think the Leafs are prepared to trade a first-round pick for Taylor Hall, who's had a terrible year. So it's always with some sort of little caveat. And the thing is, it's like, honestly, I think that Kyle Dubas believes his team is a serious contender for the Stanley Cup, and you can never leave things to chance when it comes to, you don't have one injured goalie, you have two injured goalies. I mean, Campbell is playing hampered. Now he's able to tough it out, but he had a couple instances where he's flared up the leg injury and has needed time off. So they need insurance against that. So, but I also think they need a depth defenseman. And they also, you see what these contending teams are doing. You see Colorado not only picking up Devin Dubnyk, but they picked up Patrick Nemeth from Detroit for a draft pick, who is somebody they had before as a depth defenseman. You see Tampa Bay basically jumping through hoops to get a top 4 defenseman in David Savard. These teams think they have legitimate chances to win a cup, and they're going the nth degree to add the players that they need, and that's what I think Kyle Dubas is going to do.
Yeah, and you can't acquire deer in headlights. You need to bring in someone who has the capability and potential of becoming an instant hero and legendarily a folk hero. Bring in guys who either you're expecting them to be the cherry on top, or you have a funny feeling that a new environment might be able to reinvigorate their game. We talked about keeping up with the Joneses on a previous podcast. Maybe in this circumstance with the Leafs situated where they are, maybe that's what they have to do. Guys, sorry we couldn't get to you in the chat, but come on back later today. Chew on this one for a while. Mike, last word to you.
Yeah, I do think that we're going to see more than one move out of Dubas. If he doesn't make the big move, I think that they'll probably make a couple smaller moves. They did open up the cap space for a reason. He's probably got a lot of irons in the fire, and we'll probably see something, if not today, then early tomorrow.
Let's go, Leafs. I hope it does well ultimately. We'll see if between now and the next time we get together here in the few hours ahead, if the Leafs do anything. If not, we will continue to gin up the excitement. Mike, talk to you soon.
Thanks, Norm.